Come on. Oh, there we go.
Got it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Faces for Autism Streaming with Love Telephone. I'm Jacob Hackett. You've heard stories from administrators in school systems, people that work for schools, work-based learning programs, but now it's time to move on to the real life stories of our parents and advocates. My next guest, we became friends through New Jersey Partners in Policymaking. It's an advocacy course. You start in September of each year. You have to get talk about how you are planning to advocate as our class is about to end in April. Here to tell us more on why you should advocate in her life story, please welcome from Essex County, New Jersey, Jennifer Boyle.
Good morning, Jacob. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Jen? Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for asking me to participate in the telethon. I'm happy to help.
Thank you very much. So, Jen, my first question, just kind of give us a little background on your family, why you should, just start the family background and then we'll get more in depth.
I'd be happy to tell you about our family. We are a family of 4 and our dog Casey, of course, so really a family of 5. My husband and I live in North Caldwell with our 2 boys, Sean and Sam. Sean is 18 years old and Sam is 15 years old. And we have learned over the years to advocate because my son Sean has a disability. He has cerebral palsy and a lot of medical issues besides that. And I have found that I have needed to step up and advocate for him, speak for him. And also as his mom, I have been learning to help him learn to advocate for himself.
Jen, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Advocacy is so key, and that's why there needs to be more of us, because I was doing research in our state, and specifically county by county. I don't know how it is in Essex, but I will give you Atlantic County. There aren't many ways for people to advocate. They don't have, I don't want to say the skills, but they don't have the groups. They aren't meeting regularly to decide, okay, this needs to be done. And I don't like to do this, but thank God for people like myself who are reporting things to the county, getting ramps fixed on buildings.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, it's ridiculous that things aren't getting done, but that's my opinion.
Well, I think that everyone needs to learn to advocate, not just people with disabilities, but every person needs to learn how to identify what they need and to be able to ask for that in an effective way. And we all advocate on all levels of our life. We advocate for ourselves personally. We advocate for things that our children need at school. If they need special help after school, if they need an aide to help them, if they need therapy. And then also people can learn to advocate on an institutional level so that they can learn to advocate for businesses and schools themselves to change. And then we can also all learn to advocate on a governmental level to change policies. So there's many different levels of advocacy and advocating, and everyone benefits from learning these, people with disabilities and families with disabilities and everyone.
Right.
There's a lot that needs to change.
Yeah, and as I say, be the change people, because it's just as Jen and I have said, it doesn't it should not take, I get it, advocacy is not easy, but it shouldn't take like a ton of us to get the job done. People should be learning, people should be educating, people should be looking at accessibility. Yes, that's right. No, that isn't. Yes, that'll work for my child. No, that will not. And just as we were saying before we started this, there are buildings such as Jen's a big boy, or kids are in the Boy Scout camps. They have meetings in churches. Churches are considered a historical building. You can't have, you, it is not, you can't, it is extremely difficult to make modifications to a historical building. And if you need accessibility, such as having a meeting down below in a basement, you don't have handicapped chairs, you don't have ramps, there's no
Mhm.
entryway or access way to and from.
That's true. And what we do is if we need to get down to the basement, we can carry Sean down to the basement and people can help us, which is not ideal as far as safety, but that's another way to advocate sometimes. If there's something missing that you need, sometimes you can have the people around you help you. You know, would you mind helping me bring this chair down the stairs? And if you can't always solve problems like that, and those are temporary or short-term solutions, but sometimes you can advocate for a person to help to get out of a bind like that. Um, so it is important to make changes when you can to buildings to make them more accessible. But if you can't, it's important to be able to look around and think, how am I going to solve this problem today? That's another way you can advocate.
Yeah, and I mean, like, has the church said anything to you like, yes, we'll look into this, no, no we won't, or because my church is, because I'm a regular congregational member, they're actively looking. I was just curious because
Uh,
you use it for Boy Scouts.
It is, in this case, we actually haven't approached the church to make a change. I called the church and asked them, I had to confirm, that's the first thing to always do. Do we actually have a problem or an issue here? I thought to myself, since this isn't our church, is there an elevator someplace else? Is there a ramp we don't know about? Is there another door? So I called the church to ask, and there is not. There is not a way down into the basement. So the next step for us would be to determine, are we going to make this an advocacy issue? Um, in some instances, you can make an issue and work on a problem. And in some instances, you might decide not to. Do you want to work on something else instead? Sometimes you can solve a problem, like in our instance, by having a person help us bring Sean down the stairs. It depends on the situation. It depends on whether there's other people who also need access, for example. So we haven't made an issue of this yet, an advocacy issue. We could, but so far we've just been either meeting in a different part of the church or carrying Sean down to the basement area.
Yeah, my fear with a situation like that, speaking off of it, up for the two of us, is that A, the church is in a basement, but B, the steps, I don't know if this is true or just what I'm envisioning in my head. The steps must be like rickety because they must be old.
It's funny, these actually, the church is old. The stairs themselves are okay. There's just a lot of them. That's the thing. It's a long straight staircase. It's not ideal. for getting someone up and down, to be sure. And sometimes, though, I don't know if they would be what they can do. We'd have to probably have a meeting to talk about, here's our issue, here's our vision. Our vision is that everyone who wants to use the church basement can do it. And what could be some potential solutions that we could look into? Could an elevator be added? Could there be one of those devices that allow a wheelchair to go downstairs? Can there be a ramp? Can another entrance be used? So sometimes the first step is to identify the problem or the issue, and then the second step is to start brainstorming about potential solutions. And of course, the third step would be to implement one of those. So
Yeah.
at this point, we're at the beginning stages of this, but that's one example from scouting. Fortunately, with Boy Scouts, there are virtually every time there is someone who can help. So if we're on a hike, for example, and the hiking trail is inaccessible, sometimes that happens. You'll get into a hike and then realize there's a big tree across the path. Generally, there are people there to help us. So even in that case, 2 or 3 people might help to carry Sean's jogging chair over a tree trunk that has fallen across the path. Sometimes advocacy and access can be done on the fly, in a situation like that, and someone can continue their hike, even though there's an obstacle.
Yeah, and you just think of things like, I don't know, it snowed last night. What if there was snow on the ground? What
Mhm.
if it's, I don't know if it's me. I would love to know your feelings on this. Since we've taken these classes, do we live in a what if world now? Like, what if this happens? What do we do? What if that happens? Like,
That is such a good question. I think that the pandemic has injected a lot of uncertainty into our lives and in all areas and for all of us. And so I think that there's more uncertainty to be reckoned with, and that people are having to deal with that in all areas of their life, not just access areas, but all areas. Being able, are businesses going to be open at all? Um, are are we going to be able to do what we want to do today because of the pandemic? But I think that there is a lot more that people are having to deal with because of the pandemic, and it is more of a what if world for sure. And hopefully that makes people more flexible, because I think more people than ever have had an experience of having to overcome an obstacle. Like, I want to get together with my family, but the COVID rates are higher, and having to problem solve, because really advocating and solving access problems is about problem solving, identifying a problem and then um, finding potential solutions and then doing one of them.
exactly. And and let me ask you this: like, has it been a while since you've seen all your family because of COVID, or are people close?
That is a great question. My family is spread out. My my mom and my sister live in North Carolina. My dad is remarried and he lives in Alabama. And I did not see them, any of them, in person from Christmas 2019 through Mother's Day of 2021. So that's almost 18 months. Um, and that's a really long time. When we had that little window of opportunity, that's how I see it, when the rates came down in the summer, I got to visit. I visited my mom and sister. I visited my dad. We got together with friends. And then when the rates got high again, we kind of curtailed all of that. And now I'm hoping soon now we'll be able to start visiting one another again. I hope so. It's been too long, I think.
Yeah, because as I said just the other night, I saw friends for the first time really in 18 months. And like Jen and I, we were people, yeah, people persons, and family is very important to all of us. And if
Yes.
you don't see them, and they live so far away because they live south of here for you, so I'm sure the pandemic was, oof, I can only imagine.
Yes. It's really, it's a big disruption to be sure. Um, and I'm glad now that things are improving again. And even now, starting March 7th, of course, students are not going to be required to wear masks to school. And I'm wondering what our school district is going to do about that, if they're going to uh, allow people to make the decision themselves about whether they wear a mask or not. But things are starting to improve again. So that's really good.
Yeah, and I
Um,
mean, it's because we never, last school year to my knowledge, we never had the option for no masking. It was you go to school, you wear a mask all day long.
yes, yes, that's true. And that I'm very happy to be seeing this change for sure.
Oh, me too. Let me ask you while we're on the subject of masking. Do your kids have to wear a mask going to their school and program, I'd imagine?
Well, it's interesting. My younger son, Sam, is a ninth grader in high school, and their school requires masks for students. My older son, Sean, is at an 18 to 21-year-old program. It's called STEP, and the students there or the participants there do not have to wear masks because many of them, including my son, have medical issues that make it difficult to wear a mask. But the staff, all the staff, therapists, everyone else has to wear masks and also face shields and has a lot of extra protective layers to help protect the participants in the program who cannot wear masks. So I don't know what's going to happen at my son Sean's STEP program after March 7th, that the staff will still be required to wear masks or not. But it I'm hoping I'm hoping the school makes a good decision. I trust them to do that. Um, my older son Sean was home doing remote learning during the pandemic from March 2020 through May 2021. So that was a very long
Oh
time.
my.
Yeah, and my
Oh,
younger son too.
wow.
Even though um, there was some live learning available before that, we decided not to do it until Sean was fully vaccinated, and the same with my younger son Sam. So we were all home together, working, learning, doing all of our life for a really long time, and it was a very special time for us, and it was difficult in some ways, but really kind of great in some ways too, because we all got to spend a ton of time together.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, your desk is right there, and they had their computers and
Yes.
Zooms. Yeah.
No, this is my office and also our family room. And my younger son Sam oftentimes had his computer set up right next to mine. He had a Chromebook, and that's what they zoomed from. And then his aunt, my sister, got both of my boys a big computer screen, so they plugged their Chromebook into a big screen, so they made the Zooms a lot better. But oftentimes we were sitting next to each other, and I was working, and my son was doing his schoolwork at the same time.
Oh, well,
So
that's a fun way to learn. I mean, I don't know if you would call it fun, but um, you make do with what you have in that situation. If you would like to learn more about partners in policy making, please Google it. It's partners in policy making. If you want more information, for example, say New Jersey, visit www.rutgers.edu, click on the bottom center and fill out all that It's very long. You may get a headache because I did filling out the
Yes,
information.
yes.
It's very long, very tedious, but it's a very rewarding program. And Jen, my last question. Uh, like I said, there needs to be more advocates. If you could give any parents watching this advice on how to advocate for their child, what would it be and why?
What a great question. I am a huge believer in advocacy, and I believe that the best way to learn to advocate is to do it. You can read about it, you can learn about it, but the best way to learn to advocate is to speak up for your children. Um, if there is a particular situation as a parent that you see that is not ideal for your son or daughter or is not working well, to be able to constructively identify the issue and to bring it up in a positive way to whoever it is who can help you, and then to have some solutions in mind. That really helps a lot also, to be able to say, for example, my son is having difficulty on the school bus with some of the kids teasing him, and then to have a solution of can there be an aid on the bus? Like, have a solution in mind. That's a made up situation. That's not a situation that's affected our family personally, but that can allow the person listening to you to have a place to start with a solution. And then after that, once a solution or a support has been implemented, let the person who helped you know how it worked and thank them. To be positive, to be proactive in having solutions in mind, and then to voice your gratitude afterwards can create a great environment for the next time that you need to advocate. I wanted to add also, just as important as it is for parents to advocate for their son or daughter, it is critical for young people with disabilities to learn to advocate for themselves as early as they can and to be involved in the process of finding solutions to difficulties, so that that is a life skill that a young person has as early as possible.
Yeah, because thank you for saying that because I had an aide tell me this. Uh, uh, I am 23 years old, so subtract 9 or 10 years ago, I had an aide say to me these words: "Look, your parents aren't going to be around forever. You're going to have to learn to advocate for yourself and say what your needs are." I said, "Okay." And looking back on his advice, I'm glad I took it. I'm glad I ran with it because it really helped.
Well, I can tell, Jacob, you're a strong advocate for yourself and for others. That's really wonderful, to bring your skills and your abilities to the table when there are problems to be solved. That's wonderful.
You um, uh, friends, before we go, just remember, please donate. There's Venmo, there's what the heck is that called? Cash App. Please donate. Faces need your support. We've had a rough 2 years. We're finally, by the grace of God, coming out of it. Please donate. And I'll stop. I will.